firstly, guys, thank you so very much for doing this session. Really appreciate, you guys talking to us, sharing your knowledge and information about obstacle course race. Some of you guys are absolutely beast on course. Some of you guys are elite athletes. So really appreciate, you guys talking to us and sharing your knowledge and information in the fitness space. Now, before we kickstart this episode, can you tell the listeners a bit about yourself? Where are you guys originally from? When and why did you guys move to Dubai in Middle East?
So I think in the original order we thought of, I shall go first. Okay. So yeah, obviously I'm Stephen Robinson. I moved to Dubai back in 2012. Pretty much moved every year for work, as most of us. Yeah, and been in the fitness scene, more specifically with running, obstacle racing, and that sort of thing since about 2017, 2018 onwards. Before that, pretty much just been doing training and stuff by myself and got bored of it. Hence why I started getting involved with communities like Spirit Level. Yeah, that's it.
Now, am I right in saying that before Spirit Level, it was OCR Freaks, right? And George, were you part of OCR Freaks as well?
No, I joined the crew just after OCR Freaks when George Crew went to Inner Fight.
Okay.
And had Inner Fight OCR, which then turned into Spirit Level.
Sounds wicked, yeah. Why don't you tell us about your experience in the space?
Yeah, sure. So my name is George, as I've already said. Originally from the UK. Hi, Stephen. Originally from the UK, moved out to Dubai in 2016, mainly off the back of coming to see a friend out here on holiday. And I just thought, you know what, I'll get away from the cold, miserable winters in the UK and give it a go out in Dubai. My background is mainly team sports. Just played a lot of football back in the UK, played a lot of football when I moved out to Dubai. Did a couple of OCRs in the UK, nuclear races. And that's how I originally got into this area of the fitness scene, can you say, by finding the Inner Fight guys on Instagram and joining them for a few training sessions, and the rest is history, as they say.
Oh, that's great. What about you, Cheryl?
Yeah, so I'm Cheryl. I'm from Manchester in the UK. I've been in Dubai probably just about as long as George, actually. So 2016, I moved over. Came over for work, and my other half was living here as well, so came over for that reason too. My background's very different, I think, to these guys. I come from a powerlifting background. So when I was in the UK, I did a lot of powerlifting, competed for Britain. Hated anything to do with running, so it's very different to these guys. And then I moved to Dubai, and there wasn't a great powerlifting scene at the time. There is now with Desert Barbell, but I saw a lot of competitions like the Under Armour Games, which is now, I think, morphed into Turf Games and things like that, and functional fitness. And I was like, I'm strong, but I'm not this kind of fit. So I wanted to get into that. I love started doing Spartan races, those kind of things. I'll run if there's an obstacle in the way, but if there's not, I tend to stay away from it. Yeah, that's kind of how I got involved with what I do now, which is mostly kind of functional fitness, CrossFit, and OCR when I can.
That's wicked. What about you, Adam? People are saying that you're one of the fastest runners that you have.
I don't know about that at the moment, but definitely my background is in track and field and cross country. So I've been in UAE now for almost 12 years. Originally came for work and got settled here. But yeah, like growing up, my background was on the track really, so 800, 1,500 meters on the track. And sort of got back into that last summer just gone. First time I'd raced on the track for probably about 15 years. So yeah, it came with a handful of injuries, which I'm sort of just getting over. But yeah, I'm definitely more suited to the cardio stuff than some of the other guys that have got a lot more experience in lifting and being able to compete a bit more on that side of things.
Thanks so very much for that. So guys, what you can do is, in case you guys want to have a chit chat in between, that's perfectly fine as well. I'll go ahead and delete and edit this part because I'm
I was gonna say, Adam, you got something to boast about in the gym lately, haven't you?
Yeah, go on.
Come on, tell us.
Pretty much for me at the moment, because I've not really done much lifting before. Every time I'm going at the minute, it's like a personal best in one lift or the other, whether it's clean and jerk or chest press or even just like a bicep curl. Because it's all quite new to me in terms of training. I'm pretty suspect on the technique, but that's where I go to Cheryl or Stephen or George for some advice on how to get better. So yeah, it should be fun. I mean, we got this competition coming up in a few weeks. For me, I'm hoping it's a lot more cardio than weight based, but hopefully I should be able to scrape by and as an average, the team.
Yeah, but
level out.
On that note, just achieved a 3-digit bench press recently, which is quite a massive achievement. Adam joined a 100k club on a bench press. For somebody from a running background, I think it's quite impressive.
Well, you know what? Since like July, I put on about 10 kilograms. So I got down to 75 kilograms racing on the track in the summer, which like the athletic build or the racing build on the track is not, it's quite gaunt and quite skinny and not so powerful. So I've been put on like 10 kilograms in the last few months. I've really noticed a difference. Because at the end of the season, I had a bit of Achilles tendonitis. So I was told I couldn't run for like 6 to 8 weeks. So I just used that time to basically hit the gym and start trying to get stronger. So then when I can run again, hopefully I have less injuries and, a bit more used to being a bit more resilient, really.
Actually, curious question, Adam. With you packing on a bit more muscle, did you change much on your diet, like eating a bunch more protein? And do you feel more hungry generally than when you were more cardio focused? Or how has it changed your diet at all?
Yeah, to be fair, like I try to eat quite well in the week. So I wouldn't say like I eat that much junk food apart from the weekend when I'm normally ordering from Pickle where George is. But yeah, do you know what the difference was? It was like I was running consistently like 50, 55 mile a week. So then when you suddenly stop that, you got a whole load of calories that are sort of, back on. And then in the gym, I find that makes me super hungry after a session, like a lot different to when you finish like a track session. So yeah, I'm trying to pretty much eat anything in sight, like an hour or two after. And then also supplementing that. I'd never taken stuff like protein shakes before. So started taking that. I don't know how much that adds to sort of weight gain, but I think, to be honest, like the weight that I put on is probably like more muscle. I reckon my body fat has gone up a fair bit, but not like as much as probably I put on a bit more upper body muscle because I was quite skinny before.
Yeah, I think your muscle gain definitely outweighs your body fat gain at the moment. Yeah. I mean, 6 months ago, you were like this skinny little white guy running around the track, like no muscle at all.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you turn up and it's like you've been bodybuilding for the last 3 years.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference in the physique for the sports. I have to say, like, it feels a lot like I enjoy like lifting weights. As I said, it's quite a new like a new style of training for me. But it's in sort of like it's an extreme, right? Because either I've been doing a lot of running training, so quite a lot of miles, a lot of track sessions, probably doing like 3 interval workouts a week when I was running. So that's like a tempo session, like a threshold run, long run on the weekend, and then a track session earlier in the week. So that's like one quicker than race pace, one at race pace, and one slow long run. And all in between was just easy, steady runs. So that's very different to sort of the explosive weight training. But when we were talking earlier about sort of spirit level, the classes that we were attending there were fantastic because it's like a mix of the two, which sort of gets the heart rate going, but also there's weights involved as well. And I think that certainly gets me super fit, that type of training. So enjoyable as well. Like it's different each week. So instead of sort of going out and just running around the track or running on the road, you turn up. Maybe there's like a different station for last week, new movement that's quite challenging. So I enjoy that side of it a lot.
I think it's good to also do stuff like with another group of people as well, rather than just constantly staring at the road in front of you on your own. Like adding that competitive edge in a class adds like another level to your training, which I think is something that we've all sort of benefited from recently.
Yeah, one thing on with that, first time we met Adam, the guy came in very, very competitive. So obviously he naturally just fell in place quite easily amongst us. Not that we any exceptional athletes amongst us, but we are definitely competitive. I remember the first workout we did with Adam, and we were running out of the gym, just doing like not easy runs, but it's like run to the gate and back into the gym. And Adam was flying off, looking like a gazelle off in the distance. And we're like, yeah, he's probably gonna burn out. He stuck to it though. Did suffer in the end a little bit, but yeah.
So was that in spirit level in Al-Quds, or was that within a fight?
Yeah,
okay.
it was.
No, that was in spirit level in Al-Quds.
I actually remember, I think it was you and me, Steve, when we looked at each other as Adam like tore past us.
Yeah.
We were like, who the hell is this guy?
One question which I wanted to ask is, last week there was precision events. I mean, did all of you guys participate in precision events, and what was the experience like?
No, so actually only me and Stephen competed in precision last week. And it was good. It tests us in a lot of different ways, because although sort of 3 out of the 4 events we thought were very sort of cardio based, there'll be an element of a skill in there, and it could be something as simple as a box jump, and like doing box jumps fast, which is something that we can do box jumps for a long time, but then when it comes to doing box jumps fast, it's something that we're not quite used to. So that there were sort of small skills in there where we fell short. However, when it came to the run and ski, we knew that was in our wheelhouse, so we just absolutely killed ourselves on it. But it was good fun. It certainly sort of highlights areas of weaknesses that we need to work on.
Yeah, it's definitely a workout. I was a lot more on this side of the CrossFit table versus the strength endurance type things. Because I think most of the stations was 9 minutes or 12 minutes.
They varied, I think, between sort of 10 to 12 minutes.
Yeah, so the one event that we did shine in is obviously a bit more in our wheelhouse, which is the run ski combo. I think we ended up third overall in that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how.
Like the lifting stage, the lifting, we were like pretty much right at the bottom ring, and not like we slouches, because I mean, for our body weight and people who don't focus on that, we still managed to do some decent lifting, but the level of people that took part in a competition, lifting triple digits for stuff like squat cleans. Cleans. It's very impressive getting into that triple digits.
And is that an area? Yeah, Cheryl, you would be quite adapted to, right?
I was just going to cut in there because I didn't do precision last week, but I did judge it. I didn't do it because I had a bit of a shoulder injury, and I've been trying to get ready for turf with these guys, so I didn't want to risk anything. And I got to judge probably my favorite workout, which was the cleans, like the ollie lifting. Unfortunately, I didn't get to judge these guys, but they were on the platform next to me whilst I was judging. And I know Stephen will agree with this, because I saw him a couple of years, it might have been last year or the year before, at this Turf Games pair. George and Stephen did it together. And it was kind of their clean technique then. It's kind of like if you picture like a giraffe doing a clean or something, like not really sure where your legs are and where the hands go and all of that kind of stuff. And now when you watch them, like, it's massively improved because there's been a lot more focus around that. And it's the same with Adam, with all of the weights he's doing. You get this kind of newbie games. I get jealous of that because I can't have newbie games anymore because I've been doing it for a long, long time. So
if you start running, Cheryl.
Yeah, exactly. The moment you pick up running.
If I add like 2.5 to 5 kilos on my like lifts, I'm like, woo! Whereas these guys could add like 10, 20 kilos in a matter of months because they get the technique like that. But yeah, it's right what the guys were saying. The competition was very CrossFit, functional fitness based, and if you are like new to Olympic lifting, it's difficult to come top of the tables in them because you do get women and men just lifting mad weights at those competitions because it's all technique based basically. And once you've got that, you can rock it up. But if you don't get it, then it's difficult. Or if you don't train it, it's difficult. The same with me. I can sprint. I'm a fast sprinter, but you put me on an endurance or something like that, and I'll just gas out. I'm not a runner at all. So, yeah.
You mentioned about endurance, and I think, George, you've done a Gogi, right? That was your mad event. Was that 24, how many hours was that?
So it's a 60-hour event, and it's you don't know when it's going to start. You don't know when it's going to finish. All you do is basically pay an extortionate amount of money to sign up to this event. They'll send you a kit list and the place where you need to be staying, and that's basically all you know. I mean, it was an experience. I went with a couple of friends from Dubai. I think you might know them, Luke and Ivana. So we went over to the High Tatras Mountains in Slovakia, of all places, in the middle of winter, so it's freezing cold. And I just remember being woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a loud knock on my door saying, "Right, time to go." So yeah, that's how that started. I mean, like I said, it was an experience. And to be fair, the event started with a 10K run, so I mean, for me, that was ideal. Start getting nice and warm, and then probably went on one of the most beautiful hikes into the mountains that I've ever been on, which then proceeded with a freak snowstorm, which kind of set the tone for the rest of the event, unfortunately, because I think it ruined a lot of plans from the organisers, and it kind of nullified a lot of the events that they had lined up. So there was a lot of lugging logs up and down an icy hill for 5 hours, just because there was nothing else to do, really. And unfortunately, we got to a point where for me, Luke and Ivana, we were just so unprepared. Clothing we thought was waterproof, definitely wasn't waterproof. And we got to the point where we were just too cold. So sadly, we listened to our bodies and ducked out of that one, and then ended up in a cabin in Slovakia, stuffing ourselves full of local delicacies and lots of spirits.
And I think right now, Spout and Race, they're having, I'm not sure if it is, or if audition is the right word. So essentially what you do is you need to put a video of yourself doing burpees, holding a couple of stones with some weird weights, and you need to do it with, the bottom level needs to be up till your hip or something, some weird stuff going on regarding endurance. Yeah. So I think they're going to have that race most likely next year or something. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that thing plays out. But what I wanted to find out from you guys is, you guys are from different countries. Most of you guys are from the UK, some of you guys are from South Africa. How does fitness differ in, let's say, back home versus fitness in the Middle East, both in terms of, fitness facilities that you have? Needless to say, the nature and the climate does make a lot of difference. But what is the biggest difference that you guys have experienced back home versus fitness in UAE?
Who wants to take that one?
I'll go first. I think from my perspective, when you move over here, fitness almost becomes a natural denominator of something which you tend to get into because, sorry, Does anyone hear that? Put background noise.
No.
No.
Might be from your end.
Yeah, sorry.
It's Adam. I just muted Adam and it stopped.
Okay. So, yeah, it's sort of something when you move over here, for me anyways, it became almost like a necessity. Number one, because I've always stayed active my whole life. Like just before moving over here, I was actually trying to compete for provisional K1 fighting in South Africa. I actually qualified to go to, I think, the semis. But yeah, then I had an option of, do I try and pursue this, or do I actually move over here to UAE and start a life out here? But yeah, and then obviously you get caught up with some of the bad habits that most expats do. But also bad friends. And how do you make good friends? Probably from surrounding yourself within better circles. And that's where what you get out of fitness here. And I mean, back home, people don't, I would say in South Africa anyways, like we have a very big rugby community, and football to an extent, and cricket on another level. But yeah, apart from those three main sports, things like running, especially when I moved over to UAE, wasn't such a big thing back there, even though we hosted one of the most famous races in the world, which is Comrades. But apart from that, we're not really known for our athletics or any track and field type of events that much. So yeah, it's just the type of sport you don't really pick up. So yeah, I don't know if that really answered your question, but that's my take on it.
I mean, in South Africa, there's a UFC fighter, called Dirkus Du Plessis. He's picking up pace quite a lot, and we had a chat about it as well. And he's making quite a lot of news in the good ways and in the bad ways in UFC as well. So South Africa is definitely there. What about from England?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
go ahead.
You finished now, Stephen.
I'll edit that. I mean, delete.
Stop talking.
Dirkus Du Plessis is a quite interesting case.
Yeah.
I mean, because up until now there hasn't really been in the UFC any South African fighter or any real African contender apart from Francis. But obviously he's more in a heavier weight. Now we have our own version of UFC. It's called the EFC in South Africa. That was actually why I got into K1, because from K1 I plan to go into that route. So I know a little bit about the fighting scene in South Africa. Yeah, it's a lot of pride, I would say, from the South African people in that guy, irrespective of all the bullshit that's happened with him and oh my god,
Israel Adesanya.
Israel, yeah. I mean, a lot of it is probably for show, but I think the media, as they do, ran away with a lot of it unnecessarily. But yeah, the guy's a good fighter. He's got a different technique than almost anybody in the business. So yeah, it will be good seeing him in his next fight. Hopefully he doesn't injure himself again in training camp.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, what about you guys? Cheryl?
Yeah, so I find what's on offer in Dubai is a lot different to kind of what you would get back home, back in Manchester. I can speak for. When I was training before I came over here, I used to train in a really old school gym in an old mill. There's a powerlifting gym on the 4th floor. It's still there, actually. It's a family run gym, and I still go back every time I go back. And when I came out to Dubai, I was a little bit like, where can I find that like authentic kind of spit and sawdust kind of gym? Because you can't get a lot of that here. Is some of it's quite bougie and influencer and all that, and I miss that. But now I see I go to warehouse to train, and you can have a bit of both with those gyms. You have the main Al Quds one, but then you do have the more bougie upmarket Jumeirah Park one, maybe. And I just find there's a lot more opportunity to do different things. Like I wouldn't have necessarily got into maybe OCR as much when I was at home, because nobody wants to run through the rain and hail and mud and snow and stuff doing it. I know, George, you probably do. We just talked about it now, but like, you know, and you get kind of a whole array of different gyms you can go to, different classes, different, you can go hiking more here, and there's more opportunity for things like that. You meet people, like I've met a lot of good friends doing fitness and doing kind of any activities like that here. So I think that's one of the big things I like about living in Dubai. I do miss that old school vibe of home, but yeah, I think fitness makes you feel a little bit more at home as well if you find the people that you want to train with and you feel at home in the gym that you're at.
Yeah, I totally agree, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. I mean, where I'm from in Cambridge in the UK, it was you either did football or rugby. They were the two sports that you typically go and do. And I think it's very, Adam might have a different point of view on it. I think it's very, depending on which region you come from, almost depends on what kind of sport you fall into. And I think, like Cheryl says, out in Dubai, you can go from doing a powerlifting session one day to running a track the next day or doing an OCR at the weekend. The variety and the opportunity to just turn your hand and do pretty much anything you want to try out here is almost limitless. And the community is there and they welcome you with open arms, which is probably the best thing about it.
Absolutely. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, it's the same. I have the same experience there. Is that it's about the access to facilities and the quality of the facilities as well. There's about 2 or 3 tracks within like 15 minutes of me, 5 or 6 gyms, and they're all well kitted out and access to classes. The reason I originally went down as well to spirit level was I was training every time I'm training on my own. So it was good to like get into a group, and with that opened up a lot of opportunities and events or competitions that I never even knew existed, to be honest. So last year when we done Turf Games was my first, I don't know what you would call it, like multifunctional fitness event or however it's sort of labelled. And we ended up winning it. And from that, it was like, okay, well, this is quite cool, something that I enjoy. And then there were races that we done like in the mountains, the Wadi B race. There's a couple of other.
That was good. That
was a really like.
I think I've got the.
I can't imagine like there's many places.
Got the.
Yeah.
Was that the 30K one? Was it?
No, it was 70.
70.
Yeah. So it was a team relay race. And I mean, the only reason we came second is because we were racing against the current OCR Spartan world champion and a few other monstrous athletes.
And talking about obstacle course race, you know, some of you guys have done obstacle course race, but some of you guys haven't. But I don't see any of you guys in obstacle course race. So, What
Cheryl, Cheryl's our new obstacle course racer.
Oh, Cheryl, so you do obstacle course race. That's wicked, yeah. So because next year, Tough Mudder is planning to have Tough Mudder Infinity, which is, 8 hours of obstacle course race. The prize money is supposed to be massive, definitely much more than what Spartan World Championship is planning to have. So what are your general thoughts about obstacle course race, the good, bad, and the ugly side of it?
How can we be diplomatic about this?
I mean, I'll give my brute's opinion, and then you know what, George. Like, I think at its essence, I personally still love obstacle course racing, and even now I would still sign up to do it. The problem is it interferes a little bit with the current goals that I'm training for, but I think when you try and do it a bit more competitively, it's a little bit frustrating because the level of, how can you say, refereeing, judging, and just the spirit of camaraderie by local participants is very shite. Like people, and they're willing to cheat, without feeling bad about it, and that's the problem, and if you take part in something and you really work your backside off and you try and get on a podium for something, and then you see people not following the exact same rules of the course for that thing, and then on top of that, the umpires or the referees or whatever you want to call them don't do the job to police it quite well. It makes you a little bit frustrated to a point where I think that's probably one of the main reasons a lot of us started venturing off into other stuff as well as obstacle course. Don't get me wrong, I'll still do it if I have time and I can put it in between.
Here's a question for you though, Stephen. Would you sign up and do it competitively, or would you do it more for the fun side of things?
Probably more towards the fun side of things.
Is that just because? I mean, I feel exactly the same. Like at the end of the day, who doesn't love throwing themselves around over obstacles? It makes you feel like a big kid. But when the playing field is not level and not equal for everybody, then to me, and probably to you, Stephen, as well, like, why would you do it competitively when you know you have a clean race, but not everybody else has a clean race?
Yeah, I mean, I'll use the last Spartan race that I took part in, which was at, I think it was night Spartan race. And I just came back from a very long-winded injury. Trained my ass off for this race to try and get number one to myself, that I'm back to the level of fitness that I was before I got injured. But also, obviously, being competitive, I wanted to try and at least be in the top 5. I think I did a elite then. And man, got to the first obstacle, and you had a lot of the elite athletes, just skipping the obstacle. And to an extent that, like, I think it was Atlas Stone Carry, the first obstacle as well, or the sled thing. People just running past it. And if you have any self-integrity, you're not going to do that. So I ended up like going through every obstacle, doing everything, and then ended up placing something like 18th, 19th for wherever. And looking at the time, I still ran a pretty fair time. Florian, same thing. I don't know, you know Florian. So me and him were actually both going into it to be quite competitive, and we both just came to the same conclusion on that day that, like, if you want to do it competitively, it's not worth it anymore. So yeah, that's where I pretty much hang my head to be competitive and sorted.
How was sorry, Stephen. I was going to ask Cheryl how Tough Mudder was.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to cut in about the competitiveness first. For me, obviously, I've mentioned already, like, I'm not a huge fan of the running side of things. So a lot of the Spartans I've done have been 5 or 10K, but I mostly like the sprints. And for me, I've been quite disappointed that when they've had them recently in the region, the sprints haven't had a competitive category. So they'll just have a social category, which I'm happy to do that for fun. Like, they'll have an open, I think they call it, and I will do it for fun, but sometimes it's good to test yourself. And in the open ones, I find a lot of stuff, kind of what the guys have been saying, people are doing it. The obstacles get fully backed up. Everyone is like stopping to take pictures. I did the Ice Warrior challenge last year in the Ski Dubai. And like everyone was holding up the obstacles so they could get their phone out and take pictures. And it was really frustrating when you want to run a race. Yeah. But I did the Tough Mudder over the weekend, actually. Fujairah, yeah. And I actually did it with some of the girls from work. Now, I've been at my current workplace for about 2 years now, and I've been trying to kind of introduce a bit more fitness or more competition, or just a little bit more activity for everyone. And I managed to get 10. I think there was 11 of us in total. 2 were our youth council members, because I work for the Al Ghurair Foundation. So we have a youth council. And I managed to get 11 of us to sign up for it. And sorry, George, must be boring him. He's gone. Yeah, and I got them signed up, and we've done some training for the past 4 or 5 weeks leading up, like 1 session a week on different things. And it was a really good event, actually. We did it for fun. I did it to expose people to these kind of competitions. I knew that it wasn't a race. I really made it explicit that it's not a race. It's a team building opportunity. It's teamwork. And all of the I say the girls who took part. We had one guy as well from the youth council, but the whole team that took part, they really enjoyed it. They tested themselves on the obstacles. They found it really, really exciting, really fun, out of their comfort zone. But they were all really proud of themselves when they finished it. And I think that's one of the bonuses of doing an obstacle course race is you get to push outside your comfort zone and test yourself, and it builds camaraderie as well. Spartan, not so much, because it's very much individual effort. But Tough Mudder isn't a race. Tough Mudder is all about teamwork, and I noticed that at the end of the race they were really happy with finishing it, and I was proud that I was able to do that for them, really.
And it was ridiculously hot as well, right?
Yeah. We started at 9:15, which was a bit of a mistake because once you're out in the adventure park, which is compared to the other races I've done here, actually the adventure park is some tough terrain. Actually, it's quite uphill, rocky, very different. And when you're out in the elements, it was hot. There was a couple of competitors, I think, out there and team members who went off with medics and stuff like that. I saw around the course actually because of heat stroke and sunstroke and dehydration and things like that.
Yeah, and you mentioned about some guys, stopping for photograph. I know some stupid guys, they take GoPros and they keep taking videos and absolutely ridiculous and annoying, right, Steve?
Yeah, 100%.
That's about me, by the way, because I take 2 or 3 photos in my head and I keep on taking it.
I think it's fair to do that when you're doing it socially, like when it's not a competition. If you're out in the elite or the age group and then you're holding up obstacles because you want to do that, then
correct.
That's a little bit more. It's more about respect, isn't it, for the other competitors? Absolutely. But when you are doing like Tough Mudder at the weekend, it's fine to have your GoPro or be taking pictures and to just be enjoying yourself because it's not a timed race. It's fun. So,
like, what? In UAE, I'm hoping one fine day we also have a beer mile.
Oh, yes.
Sure if we have that at least as of yet, but hopefully next decade's time or so, I'm pretty much sure we're going to have that. Well, what's your experience, Adam, in the obstacle course race? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
To be honest, I've never done an obstacle course race. I've something that I haven't.
Do you think you'd give one a go?
To be honest, probably not now. The reason being is when I'm normally training, if I'm training to race, it's usually for like a specific race or aim or time. And these obstacle races that I've seen out here seem to always be like on sand or seem to be like there's a reason why it's not doesn't quite work, whether it's like a silly distance or whatever it would be. And some of these races, like an 8-hour obstacle race, that's going to wipe you out for like 10 days after.
Worth it though.
Yeah.
For the prize money at least.
For someone who signed up for a 60-hour one.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask you, George, for this Tough Mudder Infinity, do you feel like this is Tough Mudder flexing their muscles and putting on a new event, or do you feel like this is Saudi Arabia trying to?
No, I think it is definitely Tough Mudder. Definitely an initiative by Tough Mudder, because I know the guys, they're from South Africa, Duncan, and they have had this idea going back to 2020, even before COVID, in fact, that they did want to put up a Tough Mudder Infinity, and they wanted to do it in UAE, but now because of Saudi Vision picking up and the sports festival picking up, so they just got the opportunity to do it over there.
I think it would be incredible over there, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it helps Saudi Arabia as well, like you say, with showing the sporting side of the kingdom rather than just sort of what's going on in the northwest.
Yeah. And I think right now there's some festival picking up, and they have the first fight between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou.
Yeah,
that is what is kicking off. Yeah, the fighting season and sports season. Hopefully, probably in the next decade, we might see quite a lot of obstacle course race events over there.
Yeah, I think that Tough Mudder would be a cool thing to attend. The problem is it interferes a lot with pretty much our biggest event coming up for me and George anyways, which is the Gov Games. So if it wasn't for Gov Games, I would have definitely gone to this.
Yeah.
But again, try being competitive, you would actually want to train full time for it, and training for something like Gov Games is a completely different discipline than a full-on endurance race that Tough Mudder is having.
And am I right in saying in Gov Games, Spirit Level was in the top 3, right? Was it?
Yeah, we finished second.
Second. And last year, what was the experience like between last year and this year? If you were to compare it, what is it like?
I think the first year we did it, we kind of, I mean, initially we didn't want to do it. It was only a friend of ours who made us sign up because the qualifying event was a Deca.
Yeah.
So, and that was basically what we were training for. So we were like, okay, we'll do it. We'll give it a go. And I think we ended up placing second in the qualifier, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which then,
and with us all coming back from injuries, like you were pretty much injured. I just came back from my glute injury.
Yeah.
Tariq was still half sick.
Olivier basically hadn't trained for about 5 years.
Yeah, true.
And also going back to, Cheryl's point, when it was the first deck, I don't think so it was timed. There was no competitive category as well for the first one. It was just the open category, right?
I can't remember.
The one in Business Bay.
Yeah, I honestly, because
I remember in my heat there was Jess Towell, and I was just looking at her. I was like, I can't compete with her. Let me try to go in the next one.
Yeah, I think people were just going to try and put up good times and compare themselves to the global ranking.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now, you guys are actively involved in hybrid fitness, and this is where High Rocks kicks in. So, what has your experience in High Rocks been so far?
Well, George is the most experienced on the topic, so he can go.
I mean, we're missing our Mrs. High Rocks.
Yeah,
Leanne. She'd have been the good one to ask for this after.
Was she the one who ran with Mrs. Crew as well?
She was, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cheryl will talk for Leanne.
Yeah, I could probably cover it because High Rocks is not my bag. I've not done any High Rocks. I have been a cheerleader at High Rocks events, though. But I haven't competed in one.
And the World Championship was in Manchester as well, right?
Yeah, it was actually, yeah. That's when Leanne went to that one. Danny and George, a lot of the Spirit Level crew went across to the World Championships.
Yeah. I think coming back to your point on Spartans, George, and why people may be drifting away, and what Stephen was saying about the whole racing side of things, and I think with High Rocks, because it is so measurable and controlled, that's what people like, and obviously they've designed it so it is for everybody to go and do it. So you could be from any background. And you could give High Rocks a good go, rather than you don't need to train for it specifically. But I know certainly after we did Amsterdam last year, I mean, I did mixed doubles with Danny, and you finish the race and instantly you have all your run splits, you have your sled push splits, you have your lunges split, so you can see where you ranked, and then it gives you that sort of like focus to say, right, I need to focus on my burpee broad jumps, or my running needs to be a bit quicker, that side of things. So, and I think as well that the margin for people bending the rules, shall we say, is a lot more strict, which again levels the playing field. If you do something that isn't correct, you do something that's not in the rule book, you go back 10 meters, or it's a no rep. So it's very fair on that front.
And how does Fusion race compare, let's say, to Hybrid Fusion, the one which is done by George Crew, the Fusion Race 2.2?
Adam's got brilliant experiences with that one.
I think there's one coming up in November also, right?
There is, yeah.
Yeah, November the 4th. I think it's one of the few events I've done. I really like it because it's a whole mix of different stations that definitely build up across the race. So I found it quite hard as we got to some of the later stages, even though the weight wasn't too heavy. But yeah, as an event, I think it's quite cool. Again, like you can benchmark the time, see how you get on. It's quite standardised, which is definitely a good measure of fitness, and always a good turnout as well. from what I've seen. I've only done one, which was the last one, and probably will enter the next one on November the 4th. But from me as well, I've got no experience with high rocks at all. My only view on high rocks is I don't believe at the highest level it's a clean playing field. I think that there's the requirement when they start now bringing in prize money for them to look at testing. But again, with that comes a whole heap of costs and other challenges. But from what I've seen, that would be my view on it. But as a mass participation sport, like as George said, it's pretty cool because it is accessible to everyone. It's something that you can benchmark and measure your improvement, and also identify areas that you are weaker or stronger on. So you can go away and work on certain areas that you know will improve your performance next time out. The only other thing that for me, like, is a bit questionable on high rocks is like the course layout. So if you've got a run that's like 1 lap or 4 laps, your times are going to be different. If you've got like a sled on a mat that's particularly sticky, or you've got a rower that's not calibrated correctly, like, they're standardizing it as much as they can, but there's still that difference. So when they come out and say, oh, there's a world record, yeah, how much is that down to the course layout and the luck of the lane draw? And you've got people that are smashing world records here, but like, whenever I see that, because you see it quite a lot at the moment in the running side of things and marathons and half marathons, I always question it because it's those sorts of jumps are, quite big to happen overnight. Certainly with athletes, it's come out of nowhere.
I remember when I sent you that post on Instagram of the new world record in the marathon.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first comment I got back from Adam was, "Yeah, he's juicing."
Wasn't that his 3rd marathon ever, right?
Yeah, it was.
Chicago one, right?
Yeah.
Recent one, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing because 3 marathons and pretty much 3 top 10 times or top 15 times. Now, there's also the other on what you're saying, Adam. It's also how much of it is gear or mechanical doping to that extent. Because, I mean, if you compare things like marathon runners now, like Adidas just brought out that one race shoe. So there's a lot of pushback from the purist running community to get the shoe banned. Like there was when Nike initially brought out the 4% before it was aptly named the next percent. Because if you have the money and you can afford a shoe that costs 1,800 dirham, and you're going to toe the line with a guy in a half marathon who can't afford that shoe, and he's going to go with an entry-level pair of Nikes or Skechers or something. Is it really a fair race? That's what you got to ask yourself.
Yeah, there's definitely back to it. Originally, certainly like in like marathon running, when Nike and Adidas released their version of the carbon fiber shoe, it was only available to the elites, and then there were rules that were put in place to say you have to make it available on the public market. And then there are now rules in certain countries, like, for example, UK Athletics, they don't allow certain shoes in various races. So Adidas have got a shoe on the market, for example, that you can buy, which is a carbon shoe, but the heel drop is considered too big. So you're not allowed to wear it on a track in a race, and you're not allowed to wear it in various regulated road races in the UK.
Is that the Prime X you're talking about? That thing with this massive stack height?
Yeah, it's like running on like a foam spring, basically.
Why, make shorties like me about 2.5 inch taller.
I know for a fact for triathlon or the guys in Tri Dubai, they often post pictures of shoes, that you can't use for different triathlons. And if you use it, you're completely disqualified for the race. So, and one question what I wanted to ask regarding hybrid fusion race versus high rocks, am I right in saying that the only difference between both of them is barbells? That in hybrid fusion race there are barbells, whereas in high rocks there is no barbells. Am I right in saying that, or am I miserably wrong in that?
I think there's I mean, that's one difference. There's many differences. I think obviously high rocks you need to hire out. I mean, Dubai is a prime example. You have to hire out the World Trade Center, whereas stuff like hybrid fusion is the whole focus is you could put it on in a gym. So it could go to pretty much any gym in Dubai if they've got the equipment. It's pretty basic standard equipment, and you could put on a hybrid fusion event.
Yeah. And I also think it's a different, even though you can consider it as a hybrid event, it's actually a completely different race. Given a time, for one thing, there is a very big strength element in it.
Mm.
Where, like, let's say if you're going to go with does George call it the elite or what? But
yeah, elite.
If you go to the elite, I think the deadlifts is what, 100k.
100 kg, yeah. You'll be all right with that now, Adam.
Yeah, but it is something it really tests you as a hybrid athlete to the extent that, like, not everyone can deadlift 100k, mate. Like, let's say Adam last year, he would have really struggled to get through the reps of 100k.
I struggled last year.
Yeah, and where with high rocks, literally almost anyone can even enter the elite. It might take you longer, but eventually you'll get through it. Where with hybrid fusion, it's a lot more aggressive. It's a lot shorter. You really rev your engine up a lot higher. Like, I think the first one where I recorded my highest ever heart rate of 206. So yeah, it is. But yeah, it's a good, well balanced event. And like George says, you can put it on anywhere. And it's amazing, actually, the traction that the event had. Because the first one, no one knew about it. It was quite limited. By the last one that was up, I mean, you couldn't even stand and observe anymore. And it just shows you, because being so well balanced, it draws the attention of people from all different backgrounds.
That's great to know. And just a couple of months ago, I did have an interview with Yancy, who's the co-founder of DECA. And one of the questions I asked him, where do you see the next future dominant champion to be from? And he actually said definitely someone from UK. And I was a bit perplexed to see why did he say UK. So what do you guys think? What would it take in order to have a dominant world champion, let's say from the Middle East? It could be X-Pacs as well. But what skills and characteristics do you think it would take to be a dominant champion from the Middle East?
It's a big question.
It is a big question.
It's a very big question. I was just thinking when you were talking about the fusion race and how it being very much a test of strength as well as endurance and things like that. I don't know if you guys are aware of him, but there's an athlete in the UK, Fergus Crawley.
Yeah.
He's a hybrid athlete. I know him through powerlifting, so from many, many, many years ago. And now he's very much a hybrid athlete. I think his next challenge is a 500-pound deadlift, and it's followed by a sub 5 minute mile.
Yeah.
In the same kind of within, he's going to do that together. And I watched a couple of the kind of trainings that he's doing. And I would say he's probably one of the most pure hybrid athletes I have seen. Someone who's got that pure brute strength, whilst also having, the ability to do multiple triathlons in a day, Ironman and things like that, as well as, do a powerlifting meet on the same kind of week. And I think you need someone maybe similar to that, who has that strength level, but also the endurance, and can apply that in a race such as fusion or high rocks. Or, I mean, there's a big space now for hybrid fitness, and who knows what's going to come next. There's DECA as well. Obviously, DECA has the 3 different levels, the mild, the fit, and the strong, I believe. I think strong and mile is as far as I'll go with those ones. Fit's a bit more, is it 500 meters running in between?
Yeah. They had one yesterday, I believe, in Russell Kama, right?
Oh, really?
Or in Arlene. Yeah, they had DECA mile yesterday in Arlene. I'm not sure. I couldn't see anyone actually from Dubai attending that. This was definitely.
No, do you know what? I think those events have been very poorly advertised.
Yeah, I think they just post it via Instagram story.
At all.
They don't post it as for someone to actually watch it as well.
Yeah, it's not.
In fairness, the one we did in Abu Dhabi, Abu Dhabi National Exhibition Center, Desert Shield did a very good job of setting it up, hosting it. It was genuinely, I think, probably one of my favorite decors I've ever done. I think
that was good fun, man.
Yeah.
It was just outside the cruise and everything, right?
Sorry, again?
It was outside the terminal, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. You're right.
That was the Decker Strong.
That was Decker Strong, okay.
Strong, yeah. Then they did the Decker Mile in Adnec, in the fitness area in Adnec. Actually, in one of the cricket nets, bizarrely.
Okay.
But yeah, that was a good event. I came across this the other day. I don't know if you saw this, George, that Decker announced an Ultra World Cup.
Yeah, an Ultra, which is called miles,
which is 25 kilometers, 50 zones.
Yeah.
Wow.
That would be cool.
Now, see, for those sports, I do have this feeling that Ryan Atkins will definitely try to switch into hybrid fitness. What do you guys think of that?
I think Atkins now has switched more to that super long distance
sky running,
the long mountain biking. He just loves being out in nature and racing. I think if you say to him to come and do something indoors, I don't think it really interests him.
And I think one thing for him is, he's not doing it for money. He's doing it for competition. That is something which is driving him. Now, one question which I'm noticing, when I'm talking to you guys is, I think each and every one of you guys have a full-time job, but you guys are extremely passionate about the fitness world as well. And I do quite a lot of interviews, with CEOs from the corporate world. And one thing which I try to identify, passion versus what you're good at. A lot of the time people do feel that, they're following the passion, but in reality, they're following something what they're good at. So regarding fitness, is it passion or is it something that you're good at? What do you guys have to say regarding that individually?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's something that, for me, it's not something that I'm naturally good at, being into fitness. It's something that I've always done, whether it be playing football from the age of 6 back in the UK and then carrying that on out here. But it's certainly something that I like to work towards because it makes you feel good. I think it's important as well, certainly for me, that I have to have that competitive element about me, because then it helps me with my job, with my everyday life. I think if you're not going to be competitive in life, then you're just settling for being average. And like for me, I always want to be pushing. So yeah, that's my kind of take on it.
Yeah, I'd like to hear Adam's take on this.
Yeah, I think definitely if you're consistent in something, you see the improvements, right? And that then motivates you to keep going. Certainly if you have targets and aims. For me, definitely helps set the routine. So I like to get up early. I'm normally up by 6 o'clock each morning, get a workout in, whether that's gym or training. Like in the summer, I was track training, so I was down at the track Tuesdays and Thursdays, normally by sort of 5:15 in the morning, getting that done, and then getting on with the day. Today, I trained twice, ran this morning, went to the gym this evening to sort of have both of those in, and then normally it's quite early to bed, so it's quite structured, but definitely there's a different feeling that I get from running, because I find it quite relaxing. That it's like you can switch your mind off and just you get a lot of clarity in your thoughts and you feel good after. Whereas I feel more like in the gym, if you're lifting, it's like there's a short period where you have to really concentrate and then you're sort of recovering, or it's a different type of feeling to me. But it's because it's not as natural to me as running, which is basically sort of the background that I came from. Different elements, but overall, it's that feeling that you get after a workout. It's quite hard to compete with. It's like an addictive release of I don't know what you call it, like
endorphin. Yeah,
endorphins. That's the one.
Do you feel like as well, Adam? Moving on to the weight side of things, it's pushed you out of your comfort zone a bit as well.
Yeah, massively. I've gone to the gym loads, haven't had a clue what I'm meant to be doing. Sort of faff around from one machine to the other, and then it wasn't till speaking to you guys and you were saying, like, Cheryl sent me some stuff on like how to structure a workout and like templates to follow. I went in and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do this and this today. Whereas before, I could have been the guy that was like using the machine the wrong way and then sort of like on the phone for 10 minutes and then, okay, don't really know what I'm doing, so I'll leave. Now it feels like there's a bit more to it. So definitely if you've got a well structured plan, you know what you're doing, and you're consistent, then you definitely start to see like the results come back.
And when it comes to running, you have the runner's high as well, right? That gets ridiculously addictive as well, and you just want to go out for a run. Now with my mates, even if I have to go for a couple of pints, I was like, you know what, let me just go out for a run, then get a double high, just get a couple of pints later on.
That's it. If you're running a lot, you can eat what you want as well.
Yeah.
And do what you want, and again, it's very measurable. Like you've got apps now like Strava, Garmin Connect. You can come back and see, how your heart rate's improving, how your training's going. So it's quite measurable. But what I also feel I see a lot in having structure to it, right? Because it's very easy. You might feel good one day, go out and blast a run, but what's the purpose of that run? What are you trying to achieve from it? If you're sort of running hard one day, but it doesn't fit in with the week, then actually you're sort of compromising what you could be doing later in the week to get like a training effect. For example, as I mentioned earlier, like I try and do one threshold run a week. The threshold is like sitting just above where your body's like generating lactic and being able to deal with that zone. But if you run too hard on that, then actually you're moving it into a different area of work. And even though you feel like you're working really hard and it feels like you're getting great benefit, actually it's detrimental because you're not training in the correct zone. Therefore, the next day you don't recover properly, and then you're on catch up for the rest of the week. Whereas, it's again trying to make sure that you're consistent across the week in the sessions that you're doing and running to hit the objective of the workout, as opposed to you feel really good and you're just going to try and hammer it on whatever you're doing.
I think as well that sort of like that, like you're saying there, your recovery and how you're feeling. A lot of that, and Stephen can probably vouch for this as well, is down to like our jobs as well.
Yep.
Is sometimes your jobs can be so demanding that you've got a big run or a big session planned for the next day, and you've pulled a big day at work the day before, you've worked a lot later, and then your body hasn't quite recovered from the day before, and then you have to adjust your session. So it's almost like an added training element where we have to listen to our bodies after a full day's work, or even sometimes a week or months. And we have to tailor our sessions towards that. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of some of these athletes out here who are the coaches in gyms, and they have all the time in the world to get their recovery and rehab sessions in. We have a very select few hours a day that we get that chance to do those types of things.
And I think this is where the passion element comes in, what you were asking about, George. Because, look, I do believe to a certain extent, if you do anything long enough or hard enough, you can become relatively good at it. So, like, I'm talking top 5% thing. It's really the 0.1% of people that has that genetic outliers that is really the distinguish that you can really distinguish, and those are the type of people that can just go out and run a 2:45 marathon the first time they do it without doing anything. But for most people, you got to train. I mean, the interesting case, there was this British journalist a couple of years ago. He's gone and done a VO2 max test. he had a goal of running a sub 3-hour marathon, and they told him, look, you will take you like 5 odd years of training to be able to do that, given your current condition, and blah, 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 blah. And the guy decided, you know what, I like running anyways, so I'm going to prove these guys wrong. And the guy transformed himself in 2 years, and he ran a sub 2-hour, 45-minute marathon. He took it on full time, obviously. But that just goes to show, if you really throw yourself at something, you can do it. And what George is touching on is very true. Like, if you like something enough, you will make it fit. And then obviously, as you also become better and you start seeming to be he's good at it, or natural ability, and you actually start becoming competitive. And for a lot of people, I mean myself specifically, the more I become competitive, the more passionate I get about something.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about competing against other people, it's also competing against yourself, you know.
What about you, Cheryl?
I think kind of for me, some people would say, is it stupidity or is it passion? Because I've had 3 knee operations in my time from playing football. 2 of them from playing football, and one of them when I moved over to Dubai and decided to go down the dark alley of CrossFit, which was always a no-go for me from powerlifting. And I went a bit too hard, and I knew I shouldn't go that hard on my first couple of weeks, and got the same knee injury that I'd been suffering with back in the UK from football. So yeah, that was my 3rd operation. And it made me really readjust how I train. I stopped playing football, moved to powerlifting because it was easy, safer. Moved to Dubai, took on that kind of CrossFit initial couple of classes or trial, and got injured again. And I really had to reassess what I wanted to do. At the time, I was working out here developing the physical education curriculum, so I had to be, fit as well and not laid up at home injured. So it made me reassess what my training was. It made me think I need to be clever about this if I want to stay fit and stay doing fitness for a long time, which I plan on doing. So now I really do know my limits, I think, and know where I can push and where I can't push. And like George says, you have to listen to your body. And some days I'll wake up and I'll have that, not as much as I did in the UK because it's not as cold here, but I get that aching, awful pain in my knees, and I'm like, today's not a running day, or today's not a squatting day, today's a something else kind of day. And but yeah, I try and fit my training in with my work, with having a social life, with having a dog, and try and make sure that I get the best of both worlds and stay healthy as well. I'm not ready for a 4th operation.
Yeah, I think, active recovery is definitely important. Now, listen, guys, what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to ask a different question. So what I did was, earlier, just before going live on this episode, I took all of the questions and I put it on ChatGPT. And I asked ChatGPT, okay, come up with a really interesting question. So what I'll do is I'll just read it out word for word. And I'd really be curious to get your response on that. And after that, we have a few questions regarding fitness and some regarding metaverse and cryptocurrencies. The question regarding artificial intelligence is this: is there a particular mantra or philosophy that has guided you to the path of success that you'd like to share with others? This is like an artificial-based question.
For me, my personal, let's say, mantra is never settle.
Mm-hmm.
Never settle for anything. Like, always challenge yourself, or challenge the status quo, or challenge, but just don't ever settle for anything.
That's a good one, yeah.
I think as well, sort of add on that is, I think Stephen's seen this quite a lot with some of the mad things I've done over the last couple of years, is say yes, work it out later. So rather than sit down and think about things, because the moment you sit down and think about it, you'll talk yourself out of it. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you say yes, like, you're committed. And then it's like, right.
Yes, man.
Exactly.
Very true.
Exactly. It is. I mean, that's exactly what I did with the Agogi. I was like, I had a vague idea of what it was. I said yes. And then it was like, right, I'm doing it. So now I just need to get ready for it.
Is that something you do at your work life as well, or just in fitness as well?
Absolutely. There's definitely a massive crossover in how I approach my fitness and my goals in my fitness and my work goals. 100%.
What about you, Adam and Cheryl?
For me, I think it's very similar to what Stephen and George have just said. Really, it's if you put your mind to it, kind of you can do it. I know that's very much a cliche, but also it's having an openness as well to experience. I know I joked before about saying I moved over to the dark side when it came to CrossFit, but there was very much, and there still is. If you look at powerlifting, you look at strength sports, and you look at CrossFit, or you look at endurance, there's like this segment of fitness where, I don't do that because that's what the others do. And now I just find myself, if there is an event, I'll give it a go. I'm not saying that to admit that I'll give High Rocks a go, because I know that people can do that now. But I mean, I'll be open to things and I'll try it. And if I'm not the best at it, then it is what it is. At least you've kind of give it that opportunity. And I think that's why I ended up doing things like Spartan, things like Tough Mudder, going on and doing the Under Armour challenge, which was on Kite Beach many years ago, when I knew it was Leanne and I both did that one, and we were way out of our comfort zone because it was all CrossFitters. And we got to the semi-final and I started doing strict pull-ups and they were all doing these butterflies and I was like, this is not good. And I think that's the thing, you just have to be open and willing to give things a go.
That's great. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, definitely agree with what the guys have said there. The only thing I would add on it is really, it's like individual, right? So what you consider success or to be successful is definitely different for each individual. But, it's then consistency is key. So, the sum of incremental gains add up to what that result would be. So from my experience, definitely you can be consistent at something, then, you should get there at some level.
Absolutely great. And now take us to a darkest moment in an actual event where you guys felt, you know what, this is not for me. It's too much of pressure. And why did you sign up for this event? What was that exact specific moment? And how did you guys overcome it? And I'm sure, Stephen, he had put up a picture on his Instagram about, weightlifting, which, you failed, but later on smashed it. But what was the exact moment in a particular race event?
Feel free, anyone. I'm trying.
I've got an Cheryl. For me, there's a standout point, which was the fusion race. There's like a station which is reverse sandbag lunges.
Oh yeah.
And I remember just putting the bag on, and after about 5 or 6, I was like, I can't imagine I've got to do another 34, 35 of these reps. And I just dropped it to the floor. And I think I had a couple of mates there. George was definitely there sort of encouraging me. And it was like, there's no option. You've got to finish it. So that was definitely tough because that was a movement that I hadn't done before. I was paying for it a couple of days later still with like muscle soreness and that. But, sometimes you just need a bit of a push to get outside your comfort zone and get the job done.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
I was just going to add to what kind of Adam was saying there. I don't think, for me, I've not regretted doing an event because I only kind of enter ones that I'm really excited to do. But I have questioned my life choices when I'm in it. So it's not like I regret it, but it's like, and because these competitions, like especially things like turf games, they do push you to your limit, and you are kind of. There was one event last year with the sandbag. I can't remember how heavy the sandbag was, but you had to run it around after doing a lot of box jumps and dumbbell snatches, and the sandbag was huge compared to me. So it was quite heavy running around. I was just looking at the finish line thinking, am I ever going to get to that finish line? And then Stephen and I were in the same team last year, and the guys for turf games, we had to hold this rope and go for a 200-meter run, I think it was. And I was with Stephen and Tarek, and they're like beastie runners, and I'm just like, you're gonna have to, allow for me. And they just sprinted off, and I'm just like, I've got little legs, like, wait. And it was one of those things like, but for me, if I'm in the moment, I can kind of switch off and just do it. It's like you block everything out, and you know you're hurting, but you just carry on. And I don't know if it's not a fitness thing, because I can show you my watch at the end of it. I'm at 208 beats per minute. So, and that's not where it should be physically possible for me to be. So I think it's a mental thing. Like, even when I go running, the guys laugh at me because I'll do a 5K at 180 and just be happily sat there at 180. And that's not normal, but it is for me.
I think mine isn't necessarily an event that I've been in, but I remember doing this is when I first started training with George Crew, and he got me to do an hour's math test, which is basically just a low steady state run, controlled heart rate, and see what distance you get. And it was in winter in Dubai, so good weather conditions in the evening. And I remember getting halfway through this test, and I was keeping my heart rate at 150 beats a minute, and I was running that slow that a family were walking next to me faster. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this was after 3 or 4 years of me binging the typical expat life in Dubai, and then decided to give myself a kick up the arse. But that moment for me was I could have easily given up then. And in my head, all I wanted to do was give up and say to George, do you know what, mate, this ain't for me. I'm going to go back to my brunching every weekend and beers after work. But like that was me going, no, come on, like this is the start of a journey now. Get on with it. Almost like you have to psych yourself up, push yourself, and then it was all uphill from there.
That's right. What about you, Stephen?
Yeah, I think for me, the closest I ever came to really actually tapping out mentally was my first ever 50K I ran. I ran a solo 50K at Kudra.
Was that the bike run and bike thing that you did?
No. So one week I woke up and decided, you know what, this coming weekend I just want to go and do what is the hardest thing that I can do. And at that point, I've never gone, like I've done a marathon, but then I thought, fuck it, you know what, let's just go and see what it feels like to be ultra. So woke up, drove to Kudra 4 a.m. in the morning, had a vest on. So if you know Kudra, where the Zad's coffee shop is, so it's basically, to do a 50, you got to run a K short of where the bridge is on the opposite side of the road. So got there and I'm like, yeah, I might as well just go to the bridge, and then ended up turning back. And so then I was 26K in, and around about 35, so got close to back to where you would reach the mosque. It's about 35 Ks in. I just hit the wall from every aspect. It got very hot. I was out of water. I had, I don't know how to politely say this, but I had the runs. My stomach was not agreeing with me. There's nowhere to use a toilet. So I had to like duck behind little bushes when there's no cars. And then luckily I had an actual Ziploc bag with some tissues and shit with me.
I was going to say, what did you put in that Ziploc bag?
And yeah, started getting quite dehydrated as well. And even though I knew the mosque is only another 5K away or whatever it is, it was probably the hardest 5K in my life because you can't run, you can't walk. It's too painful to walk. So I was so close to tapping out. I don't exactly know what I did, but I just decided, and it's like, I don't think I have the ability to give up mentally. I'll rather, and George Crew actually said this a couple of years ago, and I think that's one thing that popped up in my head. He'll rather let his body break than let his mind break. He heard this on some podcast, and it stuck with him, and that stuck with me as well. But yeah, shit like that just kept going through my mind. Like, if your legs can still go forward, there's no reason your mind should give up. If you're not literally lying on your back, then you can't give up, And I also remember I did all of this without even music on. So I didn't have headphones in. So that's the deepest, darkest time, when you don't have any music pumping in your ears or podcast, and you're so close to the edge. And eventually I got comfort out of it, like knowing I'm right at that limit, and anything, or I almost felt I had a bit of a runner's high, like the closer I got to the mosque, because I started suffering from delusions of grandeur. Like, at that moment when I saw the mosque, and I know it's like a half a K away, I'm like, yeah, no other person would have done this. You are the best, and I mean, that was short-lived, because after I got to the mosque, refueled, got my electrolytes in because I had the fizzy tablets, I pretty much had to walk with minor jogs in between the rest of the 10K. But yeah, then all that bullshit goes out the window, and you see guys like David Goggins who goes and runs 200 miles with a similar mantra, and then you're like, yeah, I'm nothing. Different level.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you so very much for that. Now, I just have one question, which, will be fitness related. And then I just have a few questions which is more about cryptocurrency and blockchain related. And we'll try to wrap it up, pretty quickly. And the one question that I wanted to ask you guys is, and this is something which I'm really liking, because, a lot of you guys have full-time job, and I still consider you guys as elite level athletes. What message do you have for someone like me, let's say, who's just a casual guy into fitness? What message do you have to go ahead and push it a little bit harder than, let's say, just a regular gym goer?
I think I want to go first on this. But
sorry, I missed the question.
Yeah, I was just asking, what message do you have? So let's say a casual or general gym goer like me to go ahead and push a bit further, because as I mentioned earlier, according to me, you guys are like the elite level athletes. I see some of you guys, and to be honest, I kind of try to run away from you guys, because you guys are like professional athletes. So what message do you have, or words of encouragement that you guys have for people like me in particular?
Look, from my point of view, it's never be afraid to go and try something hard, because you will always surprise yourself. If you throw yourself at something, you will never let yourself down. You'll always surprise yourself, and you'll always come away better than what you went into something.
That's absolutely wicked, yeah. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we're not elite athletes. Thank you for that compliment. Definitely, I think we're all doing it for fun at the end of the day, and that's definitely something you've got to keep in mind. And it's how you get that fun. Is it from being competitive? Is it from setting goals? Is it from being consistent? But that's basically what I would put forward, is that find something that you enjoy doing, and keep doing it.
I think you're spot on there, Adam. I mean, look at obviously our Turf Games team, right? I mean, even last year, Adam, we put a team together 10 days before the event. Like, nobody necessarily knew each other, but we all got on with each other. We had fun whilst doing it, and we all knew how to push each other when it came down to it. And I think if you surround yourself with a group of people that you know each other, you know their strengths and weaknesses, you want to help and see that person improve, but also have a lot of fun at the same time, then that's when you know you're in the right place. And I think people just need to, like Stephen says, take that jump, because you'll only regret it if you don't do it.
Yeah, for me, I think it's kind of a combination of what everyone has already said. You have to do something that you enjoy. I think a lot of people start a fitness journey doing what they think they should do. So they think they should start going out for a run, or they think they should go to a class and they should be enjoying it straight away, and sometimes it's just, if you like something, you're going to go back and you're going to keep doing it. Surround yourself with people that are similar minded, who can push you, like George just mentioned. For me, I'll train on my own weightlifting and things like that all day, but if it comes to endurance stuff, I like to be in a class because they give me some accountability and they give me a little bit of a push, and they're doing it, so I'll do it. So really just pick your lane, and then, I think that's when you get off to a flyer. But don't be scared of trying something new. And I found that at the weekend with the guys from work, none of them thought that they would be able to do a Tough Mudder 5 weeks ago, and they all got their their finish headbands and their finisher shirts, and they had a couple of minor injuries and stuff, but everyone came out with a smile on their face and they're ready to do another one, or maybe not another Tough Mudder, but another something. So I think you just have to really give anything a go, and don't be afraid to fail.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for that advice. And I was speaking to the organizer, Duncan, that initially back in 2017, after the race, they used to have beer stalls where you could have a couple of pints, but they've completely stopped that. They did have it in Al Watba for the Spartan World Championship, that you could have a couple of beers and a couple of drinks. And Desert Warrior Challenge, they had it in Ajman as well. So it'll be good to have, a bit of post-run celebration as well. Now, I have a couple of questions which is more to do with technology, and I'll try to do it really easy and short and sweet. Regarding Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, what are your honest thoughts? Do you think it's legitimate, utter shite, or is it something that, we need to be cautious about? What are your honest thoughts on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies?
This is opening the can of worms here, Jesus.
To be honest, there are around about 27,000 cryptocurrencies, and in the world of Bitcoin, we call it as Bitcoin and shitcoin. Yeah. So those are the two differentiations that you have.
I went down the cryptocurrency rabbit hole a few years ago, and it's not one that I want to go back down again. So I'm very pro cryptocurrencies, in the fact that I believe in the probably in the not too distant future that a lot of economies could be based on blockchain and use cryptocurrencies as their everyday currency. But that's almost as far as I go into it now.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, you and me have quite a bit of touched on crypto, George.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a full believer in it. Whether or not it will be used as form of legal tender one day remains to be seen. Apart from Bitcoin being adopted as currency in a few countries, but it's more about I think the technology behind blockchain. What is interesting. I mean, I'm very pro a certain kind of crypto, and I'm not sure if I should shout it out, but yeah. Is where when you have like full system governance of things like IDs or that sort of thing, which crypto can do with smart contracts, or when you're trying to change the world of telecommunications, which stuff like WMT is doing, connecting a whole island to internet, which wasn't a case 2 years ago, and now you're sitting with 30% of Zanzibar being connected. So that sort of things make me super ambitious. Unfortunately, with any emerging technology, there's a few sides to it. It's like, number one is the naivety of people who don't care to know, and they'll judge it, assuming that it's bullshit. The other side of it is you'll get smart people who take advantage of people who's willing to dip their toes in it, and basically that's where the rug pulls come from. So with that, it makes the 2% or 1% of the companies is really honest and into it to change the world. It makes it very hard for them to actually shine and bring through the message that crypto is supposed to have, and what's his name? Satoshi initially had in mind for when he started Bitcoin in the late 2000s.
Yeah. What about you, Cheryl? What are your honest thoughts about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
You know what? For me, I dabbled in it or had a read about it a couple of years ago, but I've never really took to it. I think I did, get an account and buy a couple of I won't say a couple of Bitcoin, that's a lot. And dabbled in the idea and tried to learn a little bit about it, but it just wasn't really my thing. I am very much aware of, I don't know if you I'm into like a lot of true crime, and I can't remember the name of her. She was coined the crypto queen, and she scammed for $4 billion.
And she was supposed to be from Dubai.
Yeah.
She was living in Dubai for quite a lot of time.
And I just find that fascinating because it is, like Stephen said, there is a lot of opportunity for people to be scammed when it comes to kind of cryptocurrency. If you don't understand it, or if you're naive enough to think that you can become a billionaire overnight with it. And I think that's one of those. And it was a couple of years ago that it really took off in the mainstream, I think, with things like Dogecoin and all that, with Elon Musk and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's what really brought it to the forefront of everyone's conversation, isn't it?
That is correct. And speaking about true crime, right now the trial of the century is going on about Sam Bankman-Fried, who duped people for billions of dollars. So essentially it was like an MLM on top of a Ponzi scheme. So, he's an absolute legend. And during the court trial, he actually said that he wanted to become the president of the United States as well. So knowing the status of US politics, definitely possible. Actually.
I think that, again, this is the issues of a guy like Sam Bankman-Fried, because I think Forbes magazine coined him like the next, what do you call this?
Exactly, like a philanthropist.
Warren Buffett. They coined him the Warren Buffett of crypto. And everyone assumed everyone else is doing their research about FTX, and it's like, the due diligence is there and blah, blah, blah. But very few people behind the scenes has asked the question, where is the money and where's the money going? And no one seemed to be like following up on that. One podcaster said it a couple of months ago, is like, if people at that higher level, even on government level, were dumb enough to fall for it, then hats off to Sam Bankman, for pulling the wool over their eyes.
What is really crazy is that his accounting work for $16 billion was done on an Excel spreadsheet.
Joe Rogan talked about it the day before yesterday.
And the reason being, he didn't know that other software existed, which is a bit bizarre and strange. What about you, Adam? What are your thoughts on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies? Fan of it or dislike it?
To be honest, I don't really think about it at all.
Best way is the best way.
Stay away from it. Is my view, purely because of the unknowns. I don't understand what drives the demand and what impacts a lot of the fluctuations. So for me, it would just be too much of a risk. So I'll leave that well alone.
Totally valid point.
It's like Adam and deadlifts 2 years ago. It's like, what is this magic?
The only thing I can say is that a lot of the Bitcoin maximalists, they are very much into endurance running. I mean, I know of certain Bitcoiners, they go for like half a marathon run pretty much every second day. And that is one commonality I find regarding Bitcoin, death metal, and, let's say running as well. Now, the final question that I have is regarding technology as well. And I wanted to get your thoughts on, where fitness merges into this. Now, George, I'm pretty much sure you've heard about Metaverse, because Pickle is already in the Metaverse. So with Metaverse gaining momentum, let's say in the next 3 to 5 years, hopefully we might be having podcasts in Metaverse. How do you think fitness, let's say endurance or hybrid fitness, fits into the Metaverse? Do you think it works, or do you think it's just a bit of nonsense, really?
I think the whole metaverse a couple of years ago, when it came around in the recent bull run, was the very early stages, and everybody was testing it. I certainly know for Pickle, we tried it, didn't really work. It was more of a I don't know, a fad at the time than anything else. I think now with AI taking leaps forward, how it has, will have a positive impact on the metaverse and AI in the metaverse, and potentially, I mean, do you remember the movie like Ready Player One, for example? You'll start to see more stuff like that, and maybe fitness races happening in the metaverse. Who knows? It could be a possibility. Maybe not now, but certainly further down the line.
Yeah, probably next couple of decades. That is definitely a possibility. What about your thoughts, Stephen?
Yeah, I think actual fitness, it doesn't belong in the metaverse at the moment. Fitness should be an escape to a certain extent. It shouldn't be something that bogs you down. Like what Adam was saying, like his mind is clear and he's free when he goes and run.
Beautiful, yeah.
So, what sort of fitness? Number one, you can have it in a very fixed, controlled environment where you're tied down, let's say on a orbital treadmill or some sort, where you wear something in your face, or let's say biking. But yeah, I think it's not really escaping. And this is one of the key beauties of fitness. It gives you a certain amount of escape, especially people who sit behind screens all day anyways, and who has a very driven or a very demanding job. We all touched on this earlier, about when your career is demanding, having that fitness is a little bit of an escape. When you go out for a run, for example, and you see a few trees in Times Square around you, you're very happy, So yeah, I genuinely don't think it belongs. Not now, anyways.
Very valid point. What about you, Cheryl? What are your thoughts on metaverse? Is it just hype, or is it something you'd be looking forward for in the next couple of years?
I think from a fitness perspective, I probably stand on the same side as what Stephen said. But given the field that I work in now in higher education, we're working with helping universities to move their courses and programs online. And I've seen a lot of movement with AI and with potential metaverse. There was a conference I went to a couple of years ago, or maybe last year, talking about maybe a university within the metaverse. So it's, you attend your classes, but you are side by side with someone. You're in your own front room, but it feels like you're in the university. And it really takes online learning to the next level, way, way beyond what we saw during COVID, when it was a teacher stood in front of like what we're doing now. So I think there is space for things like that. But I think with fitness, I am quite a Puritan, and it should be out in either an outside in the real world, whether that be in a gym, whether that be up a mountain hiking, whether that be on a track or something like that. It's a form of escape, and it shouldn't necessarily be within a screen, like in a confined to a screen. But then again, some people don't have that opportunity. So maybe it works for people of determination, gives them a different experience when it comes to fitness. Could be utilized in that way.
What about you, Adam? What are your thoughts on fitness or running in the metaverse?
Yeah, it's the same as what Cheryl said, really, is that it's cool technology. I'm sure there's a real use case and business application for it, but I don't, at this point, see it as being fitness. I think it's almost the opposite of fitness, to be honest. And I don't see how that will change, unless you can plug into an avatar and start training your avatar in the metaverse. I don't see how they can really do it unless it's like an approach that you used to have on the Wii, where you could jump around the front room playing tennis. But even then, there's a difference between like entertainment and fitness. So I'm not convinced at this point in time.
Totally agree. And MetaQuest, they have just launched the new version called as MetaQuest 3. I think it just got released 5 days ago. It's going to be having a mixture of augmented reality and mixed reality as well. So, at least in the next couple of decades, we might see what it is. Now, I just have 2 questions, and after that, we wrap this thing up.
Sorry, before you go on, George, what's your opinion on the matter?
For me, according to Metaverse, I do think it might take at least a decade to get mainstream adoption. And Dubai government wants to change GDP, that is gross domestic product, to metaverse domestic product. Now, surprisingly, one of the highest earners in Meta or MetaQuest is actually fitness related apps, but it's more to do with Zumba classes. And the size of the headset will eventually go down to the size of, let's say, wearing your sunglasses, eventually contact lenses as well. And you're looking at least a decade's time. So imagine wearing just your contact lenses. It's kind of like a Black Mirror episode, isn't it? You go outside for a run, but you feel that, you're doing the run outside. And the key thing about metaverse is they'll be able to capture all of your five senses as well. Your smell, hearing, listening, all of those things. But less than a decade's time, hopefully. So the next question what I wanted to ask you guys is, and this could be just a one-word statement as well. If you were stuck on an island, which gym equipment would you take and why? Who wants to go first?
I mean, mine would have to come with accessories because I would say a barbell or a squat rack. So I need some plates as well. Is it come as a package? Then it's all right.
In the metaverse, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. So I think an Olympic bar.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on the type of island, George. Are we talking like a tropical island where there's loads of coconuts and stuff like that, or is it just like a desert island where there's nothing, or maybe a few rocks?
Let's say desert island, somewhat similar to the Agogi which happened in Leave, all right? That'd be mad.
I'd say, take a couple of sacks and fill them and make sandbags, and you can do a lot with them.
Yeah. A lot of sandbag burpees as well. Yeah. What about you, Adam and Steve?
Swimming goggles.
Oh, yeah.
What?
That is only
you can do all your workouts underwater. You can dive down, pick up a heavy rock, walk with it a few steps, chop it out.
What if there's no rocks?
Oh, this is another one. Then you.
Adam,
what about you, Adam?
I think as long as the island's big enough to run, so I don't need the treadmill.
Yeah.
I'd go with the same as Cheryl. I think there's a lot you can do with a barbell.
That's
easy. So that's it.
You need a bench as well. You need a bench, Adam, so you can keep your bench press up.
You also need a tripod for your camera angles.
Now, what I've done is, for George and Steve, I've asked you questions, and I think you guys would find out who I've asked them to ask a question to you guys on this podcast. But let's say for George and Stephen, if you can ask Cheryl and Adam one question, it has to be kind of like fun-related question. Now, the first question for Stephen is, are you still having nightmares about hanging yourself at the Wadi Adventure race? You want to share your thoughts and opinions on that?
Nah, I had psychological issues for about 6 months of that because it basically took me out of fitness for about 6 months. But yeah, apart from that, definitely not having any nightmares.
Oh, that's wicked. It's going to be really interesting to see and find out what that story is. Now, for George, I have this question, and I have to use this word. Now, I'm thinking about getting my handlebars wrapped around my bike, and I've heard you're the best man for the job. So
I'm sick at wrapping bar tape.
Okay.
I'm so good at it that literally go out for the first ride and it starts unraveling itself.
Oh, okay. That's very good. And do you guys have any questions, let's say, for Cheryl and Adam, based on what you guys know?
I've got one for Cheryl.
Yeah.
Have you found a pair of running shoes yet?
You know what? I actually have.
Oh, here we go.
I think, you know how Warehouse Gym were doing like a promo a couple of weekends ago, and it was you burn calories, you could then exchange them for coins. So 400 calories was 400 coins, and then you got a pair of shoes. And I got some Puma runners, Nitro something. They're not the ones that all you High Rocks guys have, because I tried them and they didn't quite work for me. But so far they're all right. I've not done many a run with them, but they've been okay so far. But if anyone listening to the podcast would like to buy some ASICs to try 15s, then I'm
How
willing.
many pairs of shoes did you buy?
Many, you know. And sometimes you got to realize it's not the shoe, it's the runner.
What about for Adam? Do you guys have any questions for Adam?
Yeah. Adam, seeing the recent ventures into strength building, what's now your single favorite strength workout?
Good question, that, because I'm definitely better at some than others. When you got to time the bar, as in like a clean or a clean and jerk or a clean squat, when you get it right, it's a great feeling, isn't it? But 9 times out of 10 for me, the bar seems to still do whatever the hell it wants. So when it's like a chest press, I can take the bar and do what I want with it. Feel a lot safer. So I would say clean or a clean squat if it goes well, if I can time it correctly. If not, then chest press.
Well, nice. I think Stephen,
We've lost him.
Stephen Hawk. Yeah, I think Stephen is. I think his connection.
He just messaged saying his battery died.
Oh, okay, it's battery.
Oh, what a shame.
Anyways, so I think we are pretty much done as well. Thank you so much. Are you back, Stephen? No, Stephen is like.
No.
Have you guys watched
No,
the serial killer movie? I'm trying to remember what is that Netflix documentary about the serial killer. Where
Definitely not Ted Bundy, because Stephen's not that good.
no, his image is literally looking like that. That's all. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much for doing this. Really, really appreciate it. Sorry it took a little bit longer than anticipated.
No worries, it's been fun.
Thank you so much for that. We should definitely do this again.
I've got a spaghetti bolognese to get to now, so.
Okay, cheers. Thank you so very much. Thanks, guys.
Right, cheers,
Thanks,
George.
Cheryl. Thanks, George. Thanks, Adam. Have a nice one. Yeah.
All right, see you guys.
Good evening.